Hello, everybody, and welcome back to A Better Life with George and Steve. This is our 5th episode.
That's right.
Sorry there was a little bit of a delay. George and I were both on a little, unbeknownst to us, vacation spur of the moment. George?
Yeah, a little R&R.
It was good. I did a little bit of the backwoods thing, and George did the high-end vacation
Not really.
thing.
It was definitely on a budget, but we had a fantastic time.
Yeah, I went fly fishing in West Virginia. I bought a whole bunch of equipment, and it was really just a relaxing time. West Virginia was beautiful.
You're a week before the trip. Your spending spree, all these new toys, new gadgets, new outfit. It was quite the trip, I imagine.
I bought this Primo fly rod. I used to go fly fishing when I lived in Vermont, and I haven't done it in a long time. And it was probably a little more than I needed, considering how much I actually fly fished. I was a little bit, and excuse the analogy, a fish out of water.
But there's something to be said about having the right tools for the task, right?
True. It was great. First of all, the guys I went with, they were so organized, it was ridiculous. And I don't think I've ever been on vacation where I wasn't in control of at least some things, but usually in control of everything, did all the planning. But this is what happened on this vacation. They picked me up at my house. I got in the car, and I didn't do another thing till I had to carry my stuff back into the house when I came back.
That's fantastic. That's the way it should be.
I didn't drive. I didn't cook. Everybody cooked everything. There were meals planned. There was one night was short ribs. Another night was chicken scaparella over pasta, which was amazing. And there's an Irish guy, my friend Neil, cooked. And I'm like, how does an Irish guy come up with all this stuff? And then he had, what did he make? He made lasagna. It was so good. I blew my diet big time. But
were you in charge of bringing the cigars at least?
I brought a lot of cigars, but not very many people smoke my cigars. People brought their own cigars. They bought firewood. There wasn't anything. And and I brought all this money because I figured it was going to cost a fortune. We had this beautiful cabin that fit 10 people. There were 5 or 6 of us. 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess there were 5 of us. Maybe 6. I don't know. And it was right by the stream. You basically got up in the morning. People got up at 5 and went fishing. I got up at 8, watched television for an hour. Everybody came back for breakfast. We ate a big breakfast. They ran back out. I said, I'm right behind you, and then sat around for another hour in my waders before I finally got to the water and would fish maybe 3 hours. And I'd fish for an hour and a half, take a break, have a cigar, go back out, fish another hour and a half, and then go back home, walk back up to the to where we were. So it was great. The leaves had all turned yellow. The entire place was yellow. The stream, you could see 5 huge trout looking up at you like, you're a fool because I ain't getting a hook in my mouth.
This was trout fishing.
Yes, total trout fishing.
Brown trout or?
Brown trout, but more rainbow than most. There were some natives there too. But it was amazing. People caught 20 fish.
Wow.
People went out, came back a couple hours later, said I caught 5 fish.
Catch and release?
Yeah, catch and release only in this area. And I met a few people from different areas of the world down there fishing. Matter of fact, there was an Orvis event for the employees of Orvis.
Wow.
That were coming in as we were leaving.
And that's the big name in fly fishing, Orvis.
So that's where I got my waders from. The guy I went into a place in Darien, Connecticut, right? So if you're trying to save a buck, buying something in Darien is not the way to go. And I then went. I was trying to make sure it's really recording. So then I went there. I bought the rod and reel. Didn't bother me. So then they tried to sell me a pair of waders, and you have to buy boots with the waders.
That's right.
So I go in and I'm putting it on, and I'm like, I need a short and I need a fat. It needs to come in short and fat. So I had lost a few pounds, or else it would have been no waders whatsoever. They put these waders on, and they're thick. They're bulky. You think I'm going to fight a forest fire. And I have them on. I said, oh, they fit. They're just a little cumbersome to wear. How much are they? The guy goes, they're $9.95. I'm like, they're $1,000? For $1,000, I'll stand in the pool. I'll stand in the river with garbage bags on my feet. So I ended up getting a pair from Orvis for a couple of $100. The guy felt bad for me, and he gave me a break on the waders.
You had just bought a reel, you bought a rod. Yeah. Who knows more? Did you buy bait? Or the
flies, yeah. And, of course, the first day, I put a fly on before I go out in the water. I go out there. That's the first and only fish that I had an incident with. He took the worm. When he hit me, when I brought him in, he stole the worm and took off. And I went to put my other flies on and realized that I dropped my box of flies. So I had no other flies. So I was like, part of me said, oh, no. Part of me said, you know what? I'm going to go sit down and have a cigar and not really worry about it.
Okay.
So somebody gave me some more flies. Then the next day I was fishing. I was telling two guys I met from Virginia, a judge and an engineer from Virginia, and I was telling them the story. He goes, what'd that box look like? And I said, oh, it's white. He goes, I think I ran it over yesterday. He went to his truck and got it and gave it back to me. Oh,
fantastic.
So I got the flies back, but it didn't help my fishing any.
A little rusty.
Yeah, but I did have good equipment, so I can't really complain.
And you brought that home, so you're ready for the next trip.
I am. I think I'm going to go around here a little bit, break myself in, hopefully maybe go to a lake or something, do a little bass fishing. I'm not doing it now, though. It'll wait till it's warm.
When I was in college, I had a lot of friends from Japan, these exchange students, and they're crazy about fishing. Fishing's a big deal.
It's a way of life in Japan.
And they do all sorts, bass fishing, big mouth, smallmouth. But fly fishing was one of those bucket list experiences for them. So anytime they could, they would drive up to different parts of Michigan and go fly fishing. And I went with them once or twice. And I got to say, it's a whole different world, fly fishing. You get your get up and everything. And these guys, the night before or a couple nights before, they're making their flies in their dorm rooms. And it's pretty cool.
It's different. It definitely is different. I caught a couple trees on my back fly a couple of times, but I didn't break my rod and reel.
That's
Thank
a win.
God for that. And what about you? I know you were in...
So I took a impromptu trip to Rome. I went with a significant other, and we had a fantastic time. What a romantic city that is. And that old saying, Rome wasn't built in a day, is so true. You look left, look to the right, you have columns, you have obelisks, you have ancient ruins, you have a Colosseum, you have some beautiful fountains here and there. And every other block is a beautiful church, if not a basilica. It was just an incredible experience. Oh, not to mention the food was outstanding as well.
We're actually going to have a guest on today who is pretty much, amongst other things, an expert on some of the culinary delights of Rome, and Italy. In a few minutes, we're going to get to that. I also wanted to, before we get too far afoul here, to remind everyone that this podcast is brought to you by our sponsor, and that's Premium Botanicals. You can check out their website at www.mypremiumbotanicals.com. They just released their newest product, which is hemp-based CBD gummies, flavor wild berry or mixed berry or something. I should know what it is, but I don't. I think it's mixed berry. And I would appreciate if everyone out there would go on the website and give us some feedback about it, or at least give me some feedback about it. And there you go. That's enough about that. Tell me something else about Rome before we ever...
The weather was absolutely pristine. It's perfect in the mid-70s. And it's a walking town. It's a good way to describe. There's pockets of neighborhoods here and there. And I don't know. I couldn't have planned or hoped for a better 4 or 5 days. That being said, let's welcome our guest today. And let's talk about some Italian food.
Give me a minute. I'm going to reach out to him and we'll move on from there. Okay, everyone, I'd like to bring in Franco D'Alessandro. He is an Irish, Italian-American poet, playwright. He had multiple international and off-Broadway and regional productions in his work. He's been published and produced in 9 languages in over 12 countries and 4 continents. Welcome, Franco.
Yeah, welcome, Franco.
Oh, thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure. Just as a little background, George was just in Rome. He just got back. He sent me all kinds of pictures of food. And I know that you and I have had long conversations about food in the past. Please, whatever you're interested in starting to talk about, we're here to listen.
You can't talk about Rome without talking about food. And so since you spent time there as well, with Steve, right?
Well, yes, I was in Italy, not much time in Rome. I went to the University of Urbino, so I was in the north, and we traveled the country every weekend. We would all get on a bus, and we would go to cities that we hadn't, or towns that we didn't know what were, and just compare the cuisines, because the cuisines were so much different, even just a town over and over regions, because Italy is something like, and you could probably speak on this better than me, is something like nothing else, that all the seasonings are all from the local areas where you are. So you can have the same dish in different regions, and they taste significantly different.
In fact, Italy is incredibly regional, and it's all the cucine, the varie cucine, the cuisines or the cooking, the local cooking is all seasonal. So whatever grows in that area will be used. And so in certain areas, you're not going to use mint, and you're not going to use rosemary in another area, or use thyme in one place, but you'd never use thyme in another. So it's very intricate, but it makes for a lot of excitement when you're traveling to eat like I do. And I think you both like to do.
We all do. George he hates when I call him a chef, but he's been trained with Michelin star chefs and he's born in Taiwan, and I don't want to speak for him, born in Taiwan, raised in Japan. He's worked a lot of places and
those great cuisine, because those are other great cuisines.
Yeah. And it's funny because I'll talk about something and then I'll explain what I just said and what it really is.
Yeah, I'm just I guess a student of all sorts of foods, and this Roman journey of mine has really been something of it's just overwhelming, and the fact that Romans are so proud to be Romans, the cuisine really is a testament to the history and the tradition, the culture of that mythical city. But yeah, I would love to talk about all the different pastas we had, the trippa, all the different carciofi.
Yes. Trippa alla romana is one of the dishes I was going to bring up.
Yes.
So what did you think?
Oh, it's fantastic. I've been to Rome previously on business, and I made it a point to have the trippa, the romana, and it's like I remembered it. It's fascinating how well everything, the texture, the flavor,
density, texture.
And definitely you know you're in Rome when you have a fantastic bowl of tripe.
And it's funny because in American parlance, tripe means garbage.
Yeah.
Right? If you saw like a Broadway show and someone called it tripe, it would not be a trippa alla romana. Right. It would not be a compliment.
And what is that Italian, I guess, saying the fifth quarter? You have the 4 quarters of primal cuts, but the innards, the fifth quarter. I think that's also.
Oh, yeah. Those are all the things that would be like brains, lung, kidney, heart. Yeah.
And they do it so well.
The stuff that was traditionally thrown away or was peasant food, poor people's food. Yeah.
Yeah. The tripe was a hit, I think. One of the meals was braised oxtail. That was insanely delicious.
The sugo alla vaccinata.
Yes.
That's the other. So everyone knows about carbonara.
Right. Griscia, cacio e pepe.
Right.
But then,
cacio e pepe, the Holy Trinity and the Holy Quartet, of course, you have to add to that alla griscia, which most people don't know.
Yes.
The alla griscia is just a simple version of the cacio e pepe with guanciale, with bacon.
But I think that's where you separate the men from the boys, is using a proper guanciale. And we're walking down towards Trevi Fountain, and there's this store they must have been hanging 100 guanciales from the ceiling.
Oh my God.
And it perfumed in the air, and we just sat down and had a Peroni, and just like people watched, but it was a salumeria, and it had all these beautiful cuts of salami with lard nestled
the
inside.
cotechino,
they
which is
put
great.
lard in the middle. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, the finocchiona, cotechina, and then there's mortadella, of course.
Oh,
Which is,
yes.
the Romans call it mortazza.
Ah.
So there's a famous sandwich called focaccia con mortazza. So it's a slice of focaccia with fresh sliced on it and maybe a little stracciatella.
Yes, that's right. The stracciatella was pivotal.
I love stracciatella.
Pistachio. Yeah.
Yeah, so...
Good stuff, right?
Oh, it's
now, what
good
else
stuff.
did you have? You've had, I'm sure if you've had the tripa, and the vaccinata, la vaccinata, which is another one that most people don't know. But you've had the porchetta in Rome, I'm sure, right?
Yes, I made it a point. In my previous trip, I had a porchetta sandwich, a panini.
Yeah.
And this time I really wanted to just focus on the tripa. So we found a beautiful place with the tripa and, of course, carciofi.
Do you remember where you ate?
It was near the theater, the Rome Opera Theater. I can't remember.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe Alessio, I think the place was called.
Yeah, it's Via Alessio, for sure.
But
I'm trying to think.
No, it was.
Is there any restaurants that stand out to you that you did you eat at? My favorite new place, new in Rome means 10 years old or 20 years old, is called La Pace del Palato.
No.
The peace of the palate.
Oh,
it's right off Bona.
Okay.
And I, as a food person and a Michelin person, you really need to go there because these people are doing, it's considered traditional Roman food, but it's completely with a modern spin.
I see.
So every dish that you have will not come out looking like it does at all the other traditional Roman restaurants.
A little bit deconstructed, has a different preparation to it, but still Roman. I got you.
Absolutely. And as far as I'm concerned, these were the first people who ever did an amusa bocca or a mousse. When you get there, they were doing this a decade ago. They give you a beautiful, what looks like a small egg-shaped pink frozen orb, and it's an Aperol Spritz that's been frozen.
Wow.
And that you put in your mouth, and it's an explosion of a Spritz flavor, and then they serve you the amuse-bouche of the day.
Wow. That's funny you mentioned Aperol Spritz. I had an Aperol Spritz every single meal I was over there. It was the drink of the trip.
Aperitivo, right?
Yes,
that's something most Americans don't know about.
It's the best time of day, aperitivo.
And it's so embedded in the culture. Between 5 and 8 o'clock is when you go unwind. You have your aperitivo, usually something like a Spritz or an Americano or any type of cocktail of your choice. And then all those beautiful different fun things that the chefs get to create out of their own fantasy, the small bite.
And the beauty was that although tradition and all these things are so embedded, but the ability to be a little bit free and a little bit adventurous and creative was still part of the Roman experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I found that very cool. I'm a Francophile. I love French cuisine, haute cuisine, and all the great recipes from years past, and then even leading up to nouveau French cuisine. But the libero, if you will, the ability to just think outside the box.
My family roots are in the South. By the way, we also make a great tripa. But I had cousins move from the South to Rome, and I'm a Roman by adoption because I've spent so much time there. I lived there part-time for many years and visit almost every year and spend lots and lots of time there over literally 40, 50 years of my life.
Wow.
So I know it so well and have deep roots there, friends and family.
I just adore Rome so much. My ex,
it's magical.
Her sister lives in Milan, and we used to spend a lot of time up there. Did all the Firenze, Venezia, Milano, Torino, all that.
And great cuisine, right?
Absolutely.
Great
But going down south and hitting Rome, and on a business trip, I was able to go to Perugia and to a little town called Spoleto.
Spoleto, of course, they have the famous theater festival.
Oh yes, the truffles. I went on business for truffles. It really resonated with me. So my next trip, if I'm as lucky, I would love to visit down south to maybe Calabria or Puglia, maybe Sicily. It would be really nice.
Yeah, and Sicily's like a whole nother world. That's got to be like its own trip.
Yeah, it's definitely a different kind of place.
Yeah, I can't wait.
But
I can't wait.
The unknown region of Italy is where my father's from, which is called Lucania, or today they call it Basilicata. La Basilicata was, for millennia, was called Lucania, and then it was changed. Long story behind that I won't get into. But anyway, it has to do with the different tribes that, pre-Roman tribes that ruled that area. You know about the Etruscans, the Etrusci, and then there was the Basilisci, which were in that area of Calabria and Basilicata, Lucania, and then the Lucani, which were part of the Magna Grecia Empire. They're when the Greeks conquered westward, the Lucani were the people they encountered and absorbed really into the Greek culture. We're talking now almost 3,000 years ago.
Is this to Napoli or where?
No, Matera, which was a World Heritage Site city. The Europe does the city every year. They selected Matera as the city of the EU. People will know it because the last James Bond movie, the opening sequence was shot in the town of Matera.
I see.
Matera is actually the oldest European city in Europe. It dates back 10,000 years that they date now.
Oh, so it's right in between the toe and the heel of Puglia and
one of
Calabria.
The 3 oldest.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the 3 oldest cities in the world. Continuously inhabited is the caveat there.
Interesting.
Because there are other cities, of course, that are older, but it's the oldest continuously inhabited city in Europe, Matera, which is in the provincia of Matera in the region of Basilicata or Lucania. Both names are used. It's the only real region that goes by. Older people tend to use Lucania, and younger people tend to call it Basilicata. But anyway, it's a very interesting place, interesting cuisine too. It sits right between Calabria and Puglia, so between the toe and the heel.
Wow. I'm just taking a look on Google, and it's immediately telling me it's got 9,000 years of history.
9,000 years.
Yeah, stacked in there. Wow. Fascinating.
Yeah, and I think when I was a kid, they said it was 5,000 years old, 7,000. Every couple of years, they make a new discovery. They say, oh, no, it's been inhabited now 10,000 years.
They dig another foot, and then there's like another civilization of 1,000 years.
Yeah, exactly. So speaking of Rome, when I help people plan trips to Italy and in Rome in particular, I always tell them, I give them the basics to cover. But I always tell them about some of the unknown treasures. And next time you go, keep some of these in mind. So if you haven't seen the Domus Aurea, which is the old Nero Emperor's palace, that only was opened up to the public in the last decade. That's like a very new thing. I remember I was in college when they discovered it and started renovating. Wow. So we're talking 35 years ago. And it took a long time before they opened it to the public. So that's something to see. There's also the Vicus Caprarios, which is also called the Città dell'Acqua, which is right by Fontana di Trevi. So when you go to the Fountain of Trevi, I'll give you the directions, but you can go underneath the fountain, and there's a whole museum and a whole thing there that no one ever goes to. Every time I've been there, it's like empty.
Incredible.
Really incredible. And it's a part of the archaeological of Rome place.
Yeah, because there's like 8,000 people sitting around Trevi, and you're telling me there's a museum right underneath that's empty. That's so funny.
Exactly. They're like beating each other up at the Fountain of Trevi to get a picture. And then there's this really unbelievable museum and archaeological site underneath it that you could spend a good half hour, maybe an hour in. And so that's worth seeing. That's called the Vicus Caprarius, or the City of Waters, Città dell'Acqua.
Okay.
And then the San Clemente, if you've never been, that's right behind the Colosseum, is the Basilica di San Clemente, which houses a Mithraic temple. So it's almost 3,000 years old.
Wow. 2,500
years old. A temple to Mithras, who is a Persian deity, goddess. It was half man, half woman. Very interesting. And there's a whole kind of history there that's very, let's just say it speaks a lot to the way we think in contemporary times. And then there were other chapels and temples that had been built over the course of about 2,800 years there. That's you could spend at least two hours at that place.
Oh, fascinating.
And then underneath at Piazza Navona, there's the Stadio Domitiano, which is the Domitian Stadium, which is also another underground site that almost no one ever goes to. Everyone's walking around Piazza Navona, which is fabulous. But there's a whole thing underneath it that no one ever bothers to explore. So I think those are some fun things.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think speaking like archaeology and the archaeologist's dream, we took a day trip to Pompeii and stopped in Naples.
Yeah.
But the 5 hours in Pompeii, I think we're just so fortunate to have a tour guide that happened to be a professor of archaeology. And so there was just fountains and troves of knowledge that was just poured on us, and just walking through the ancient city and getting a feel of what had happened 2,000 years ago. It was really breathtaking.
It's funny.
Yeah, Pompeii is incredible. You make me think about the biggest tourists in Italy are Italians, and they don't tolerate tour guides that are phony. There's so many great, I have a lot of good recommendations for tour guides, but almost all of them have PhDs or master's degrees in history or sociology or archaeology. And I think that speaks to why you had such a great tour. But I would tell you, as much as I love Pompeii, you have to go see Paestum and Herculaneum or Herculaneum.
Okay.
Yeah. Herculaneum and Paestum are two other archaeological sites in the area of Pompeii. But I actually think the ruins and the preservations are better at Paestum than they are at Pompeii. Imagine, as much as you enjoyed Pompeii, they're actually these are both smaller than Pompeii, like physically, they're in size, they're smaller. But the quality of the completely intact bodies and houses and scenarios that just chill your blood. It's incredible to see.
Yeah, you could spend years and years and still not hit the tip of the iceberg on this. It's just incredible.
You can go to any one place in Italy and spend a whole week learning things.
Or even just one church. You go to one church and you just look at one column, and you can imagine how many decades, if not centuries, it took to build that whole structure.
Absolutely. Italy is infinite. It's one of the few places that you literally can go back to over and over again.
Agreed.
Before I forget, I have to tell you about one other restaurant in Rome.
Yes.
Speaking of archaeological, it's literally part of an excavation, and they've excavated periodically over about 50, 60 years in this place, if not more. But I've been dining there. I've been eating there since I'm about 18 or 19 years old. So we're talking 40 years I've been going to this place. And it's called Da Costanza, or Osteria da Costanza. But it's right in the heart of Campo dei Fiori, and it's where Caesar was, in the area where they believe Caesar was attacked and killed. Wow. So it's a really special place. The food is outstanding. The food has been great for 40 years. And if you look it up, I'm sure it has a great rating online. Da Costanza.
Yes.
But it's literally right on that site. And the waiters or the manager, whomever you ask, after you eat, if you're on your computer, you can look it up and look at the interior of the restaurant. You'll be blown away. Now.
It's insane. It's an ancient ruin.
It is. It's the ancient amphitheater of that area, of that Largo Argentina area. The Largo Argentina is that huge area of excavation where people see all the cats running around. But it's the Teatro Pompeo, Pompey's Theater. Do you remember that term from history, right? Yes. Pompey's Theater is the area that led into where the senators met, and they don't know exactly where Caesar was stabbed to death. And of course, the waiters at the restaurant are going to embellish and tell you that he died right at your dinner table. But the waiters there are very charming and fun.
Oh, the charisma level.
The guys who run it now when I was a kid, they were kids. They were like busboys and waiters in training. Now they're the managers. They're two cousins, I think. But Da Costanza is great food and an amazing place to dine amidst literally an archaeological ruin.
It's fabulous.
Bucket list. Done.
It's funny you said that about they all have master's and doctorate degrees. When I was in Florence, they brought in a professor from Cambridge to give us a tour because I was at school. We went to Florence for a while, and the woman had her doctorate in Renaissance Italy and in architecture in specific. So she would take us around Florence and show us where the paintings that we just saw in the Uffizi were originally hung. She would go down a road. And not only that, she also was a touring professional opera singer. So everything was just at a different level than what we as Americans maybe, at least I was never used to in my life. It's funny.
No, I agree 100%. You're right. It's the way the Italians do everything. I was just talking to my husband about this. About you buy something in Italy, even at the Salumeria, and you buy some prosciutto or some cheese. It's wrapped beautifully. And if you go to a real store to buy a gift of some sort, every American is always blown away at, oh my God, the wrapping paper is gorgeous. The bows, the box, put it up. They don't do anything sloppily or half-heartedly. And that speaks to, I think, everything in the culture. They don't suffer fools easily, and they have high standards when it comes to everything. Look how maniacal they get about coffee in this country. The Italians look at Starbucks like it's dishwater.
I've probably said this on the podcast before, and I've certainly said it to George, is that even in the university, there was a coffee machine that was like a vending machine that you could put 35 lira in, and the espresso that came out of it was some of the best espresso I ever had in my life.
Exactly. I know exactly what you're talking about. I know the exact machine. It's right in my head. And even the gas stations, the big joke to people who visit Italy are like, the panini, the sandwiches at the gas station.
Oh, absolutely.
Are amazing.
For me, when I traveled through Italy with a train station panini for, I think it was like 1.8 euro or just under 2 euros.
Yeah.
It was the best panini I've ever had.
Yeah, $1.50.
What?
I'd see these carts on the side of the road, and like you can't go past one because you know you're going to have something there that you can't get anywhere else in the world. But at this cart on the side of this road next to that tree,
everything. The gelateria on the corner of the block.
Well, it's funny you guys were talking about truffles, and I may have told this story to George before, and I think I have, but I actually may have told it to you as well, Franco. We were at the university, and I was invited to a truffle party. And I thought it was chocolate because I'm a dumb American. Okay? So we go to the party, and there's pigs. And these guys were going out in the woods to get truffles. I'm like, what are you talking about? And somebody finally says to me, they're mushrooms, idiot. And so we go out in the field, and there's these pigs running around, and that's how we found them. And they would dig them up, and then they would come back to the house, and now everybody was fairly drunk, to be honest, because everybody was drinking the homemade wine that the owner of the unbelievable house in Italy was having for the party. And then they made all kinds of meals with these fresh truffles.
Oh, yeah.
That's a treat.
It was. I thought I was half dead the next day. But I mean, because I don't drink, so I drank wine, I ate pasta, all these kinds of very rich, as we know, truffles are. But it was an experience, to be honest. Think about how long ago it was. I think it was in 1995. And I still talk about it at least once a month, and it's still in my constant thoughts and memory. Those two experiences is having somebody with you talking about basically their culture, the things that make them Italian, whether it's art, whether it's food, whatever it is. So
it's so embraced, which is so beautiful.
It is.
You have the young generation, the old generation, and they all are so proud to share that common ground, right? That music, the food, the fashion, everything, the language. It's a really beautiful thing.
And when you get back here, you try to hold on to it.
Right.
You try to do things that would honor the experiences you have. And you try, and it's hard. You still do in some spots. You try to cook in your own house like that. You try to spread that experience, and sometimes it's lost on the people you're trying to share it with. Because,
sometimes,
right? They're like, "Don't worry about it. It's not that important. What's the big deal? We'll eat whatever.
Microwave that.
I'm easy." And you're like, even just simple things like, to me, making pasta with oil and garlic is practically a religion. I get really mad if I make a mistake. I get really mad if I leave the heat on too high. I get really mad whatever it is.
Right. Most people cook garlic on too high heat. That's a very good point.
And
same thing with guanciale, by the way, for anyone making carbonara or matriciana. Always go with a lower heat with the guanciale and pancetta.
Figure that out, make it crispy, save the oil.
Yeah.
Make love to it. This thing is it's there to be cooked slowly and
that's some of the thing about Italian food. Simple ingredients, right? Simple ingredients, fresh ingredients,
top quality, simple.
How they're put together that makes the difference.
Yeah, a lot of this resonates with, I think, Japanese tourists who go to Italy. They really come back and they relive it for the next year or so.
Because they have similar principles.
Correct.
I mean, the food's very different, but the principles are very
quality,
simple in terms of
respect,
high quality, few ingredients, don't over season, Americans always exaggerate everything. So when you get the American version of the Italian cuisine, sometimes it's just.
Except one thing.
It's another thing.
Americans don't put enough salt in them on things. That's the only thing Americans don't do.
Yeah.
So I know you have an appointment at 7:00, like you told me. So,
I can talk to you guys forever. So let's make it to be continued.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I appreciate your time and your expertise, and I look forward to doing this again. And please give my regards to Michael.
I will. He sends his best, and I maybe next time I'll come in and sit with you guys.
Absolutely. I'm trying. I have video equipment all around me to do it video because I have a back bedroom that has all the things on the floor that from a mess, and I'm trying to clean it up, and I'm just going to turn it into a podcast studio in there.
Well, we'll have to cook together and share a meal, and
that's true.
That would be fantastic.
In my little dumpy apartment, we'll try to do our best. But
Franco, grazie mille.
Grazie mille. And just so you know, we're eating Terone right now.
Ooh, okay.
That I made myself, of course.
Did you really?
Yes, I have the ancient Roman recipe.
Yeah, it's very good. Complimenti.
Yeah. Nice. I can't wait to try.
Yes. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So
look forward to joining you guys again.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
Ciao, ragazzi.
Bye.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Franco, what a delight.
I told you. He
fantastic.
Is unbelievable.
Oh, wealth of knowledge.
When my friend, he's just the first time I talked to him, we were talking about, I don't even know if it was food or something. He's just like a genius guy.
So you met him live?
Yeah, I met him a bunch of times.
Okay.
A bunch of times. So he's a friend of a friend.
Yeah.
And
anyone who talks about food with that much passion is a good friend of mine.
He just, every time, and I never knew the playwright stuff when we talked about Italy.
Right.
And everything we talked about, it was just another level of
passion, 100%.
100%.
Right.
So
those are the best people.
Yeah. Thankful for him. Thank you.
But the trip, to Italy, although short, really romantic, beautiful. It was a wonderful time. I can't wait to go back. But you know what? There's so many places I want to go. I would love to go to Switzerland again. I would love to go to Vienna, Austria again. And another handful of cities in Europe. But I would love to try visiting South America, maybe Southeast Asia. The world is just, there's so many places to go visit.
So funny. I had a friend of mine, graduated law school. We both passed the bar together. We worked together in the same firm. And he was a friend of my boss, so he could come and go as he pleased. And he said, I'm taking some time off. If I come back in, of course, when he came back, they made him a partner. But and when I come back, I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, I'm going to go around the world. And he would...
Good for him.
He would text pictures to me, or he would put them on a blog. And there would be pictures in Kathmandu.
Oh, wow.
He really went through... I told him he's following the footsteps of Alexander the Great. He's really into Afghanistan, up the hills, through the...
Either that or... Do you remember that movie?
Vietnam. He went to Korea. He went to Japan.
Around the World in 80 Days. What was that, Felix? What was the main character's name?
I don't remember.
Passepartout was his sidekick, right?
But that was Jules Verne, right?
Yeah. Oh, but this guy just went around the world.
But he took the story from the book, and he made a television show where he actually did it. Yes.
No kidding. Wow.
So it was good. It was really good. And listen,
there's so much to see. And,
there is.
And I always say this through food, because anytime you eat something that has so much soul and love put into it, you can feel the humanity. And it's cheesy and corny, but we're so much more similar than we are different. And you know it from sitting down with a family as they break bread or whatever dish that you're eating, and you taste the history, the food of the people, of the times, and it's impossible to deny that connection with earth and people and culture and the tribe and all things with humanity.
It's funny. I don't think anybody, as far as the television show, what we're talking about, I don't think anybody captured food and history and the passion for around the world than Anthony Bourdain.
Right,
I think
agree.
his shows, when he would go to cultures, he would sit and drink with them like he was there, and you would see, and he would relate to the people. He didn't go to the fancy restaurants, though he did from time to time. He would go with the regular people.
Right.
He would eat the street food. He would go to the mud hut and eat with their food and was happy to do it.
Absolutely. And I completely resonate with that sentiment, because now that I'm 45, I think I've dined at enough.
George, you're actually 45.
I'm 45, yeah. But experienced earlier in my career the fine dining and whatnot, and I love it. Don't get me wrong, but
dude, I'm 64, so I'm trying to jam everything in I can. What time I have left?
But visiting new places and sharing a meal with strangers is one of the most beautiful things you can do and share with people. It's just a way to connect and a way to open-heartedly understand a group of people.
True. So just to cover about a couple things, to have said that, we usually cook on the night, and tonight we went to
we dined out.
We dined out, figuring that, and I know my housekeeper came today and cleaned the whole apartment, so that made it a little easier too. Or else she would have had the pots would have sat for another week till she came back. No, but we went to a place, and if anyone out there is in the area, Hartsdale, it's still Hartsdale over there, right?
If you're in Westchester and you're looking for a good Chinese themed restaurant, this place, Mandarin on Central Ave in Hartsdale, is right up there. I would say maybe top 3 Chinese restaurants that I would recommend. Not that I've been to every single one, but when you eat at a place like this, you know that they are amongst very few of their peers that could hold weight to what they do.
Absolutely. Don't go there looking for egg foo young. Don't go there looking for chicken.
It's not that the American takeout Chinese food, which has its place. Don't get me wrong. It has its place in our daily lives. But I think the owner and chef, they really want to aspire and showcase Chinese flavors that aren't as commonly known and ingredients that they use. Although on the menu it might say celery, but this is a Chinese celery. It's a different species of celery. And I know that growing up in a Taiwanese household in central New Jersey, my mother would purposely go to the Chinese grocery store to pick up Chinese celery to saute with squid or with chicken or whatnot, but it has a distinct flavor. And saying basil versus Thai basil, like these are slight nuance,
very different,
right? But they're different, and it gives you a whole different experience to the dish. So long story short, Mandarin, 2 thumbs up.
Yeah. And when you go out to eat at any restaurant, I just say, George, just order what we want. Just don't give me anything I'm allergic to. So George ordered tonight. What is it that we had? It was so
There was a sliced pork belly with tofu. And now, again, there is probably easily 50 variations of tofu in the Chinese repertoire. And it's more of a spongy tofu, sliced thin. It has a bouncy texture, but soft. It soaks in the flavors of the sauce. So it's not that silky cubed brick tofu that we're commonly thinking of. It's a different...
It was excellent.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
The dumplings were excellent. And what was the other dish? The beef dish that
right.
burnt
And then
the
they
inside
have,
of my mouth out.
The last 10 years or so, I think Szechuan peppercorns have become the thing for a lot of more inland style Chinese cooking. And this was a beef and Napa cabbage stew, but really just heavy handed with the Szechuan peppercorns. After whatever the chef did, nice 5-minute or so wok fried and stewed dish. The top layer, I would say easily, quarter of an inch, just hot oil, just spread right through. And this is the hot numbing style peppercorn. So it's not only chili hot, but then it numbs your palate, like your tongue is numb after 5 bites. And it's a whole different experience too. Spicy, if you will.
It explains why you need white rice, because the white rice balances off all these flavors.
Right. It's a nice conduit to carry down that spice, that heat.
It really is. It was an amazing group of food.
When you want a fun meal, you can go in with a group of 10. That usually Chinese banquets, you go 8+, and you sit in a large round table with a lazy Susan in the middle, and you spin that thing around to find the dish that you want. I've actually thrown birthday parties there, and you go in maybe a week in advance and you talk to the owner, and you can get any fish you want. You can get any crab you want. You can get king crab. They're pricey. They're like $400 a crab, but It feeds 10 people. And it's you really go in for
and they're known for their Peking duck, right?
The Peking duck is pretty good, very good. Considering we're in Westchester. But it's a really great place. And if you're looking to try some authentic flavors, go give it a try.
Okay.
On that note.
Yeah, I think we covered a lot of ground today.
Yeah. Just
from when Franco's on, we were on for 40 minutes.
Oh, and the tension, the passion just spiked up. So we were on a good roll.
Okay, so that's it for this week. We're working towards our video, when we're finally going to go video. I don't know when that is. We're surrounded by video equipment. I had it together. I wasn't satisfied with the way the studio looked. So
the learning curve is tremendous.
The learning curve is
all tremendous. This hardware and software that you're juggling is beyond me. I applaud you for that. It's pretty awesome. Just from the first episode to now, I think we've made leaps and bounds, but the best is yet to come. So again, thank you so much for listening to us. This is George.
And Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you both. All. Thank you, George. Thanks, Franco. And don't forget our sponsor, www.mypremiumbotanicals.com. Thanks.
All right. Good night.
Good night.